Another edition of Riding Home, Dean Legge and Matt DeBary. Matt, we're right on top of signing day. We're only about a week away. Georgia knocking on the door of the number one class again. Uh, let's just go through some things here real quick. The most recent weekend was more about 2021 players, but what do you know about 2020? How is Kirby going to wrap up this class?
Well, they did have a few official visitors this last weekend in the 2020 class with Broderick Jones in town. He took his official visit to Georgia this weekend, and then he'll be at Auburn the final weekend before signing day for his official visit there. Cedric Van Pran, the four-star center that Georgia has committed out of New Orleans, he took his official visit this weekend. He's got one to Florida this next, again, the final weekend before signing day. I think Georgia has a really good shot to hold on to Van Pran. I was wondering if he might cancel that Florida official visit. Right now, I think it's still happening. So I think the Gators have a little bit of a small shot there, but I feel pretty good about Georgia's chances landing him. With Broderick, I have some sources saying it's 50-50. Others feel good that Georgia will be able to hold on to him, but you can't really, or you can never count Auburn if they have the final official visit that final weekend before signing day. So I think Georgia should be able to hold on to Broderick Jones. They definitely should. I think they will, but you never know there. Austin Blask, South Effingham, offensive lineman that Georgia signed right before signing day in December. He made his official visit. Nazir Stackhouse, a guy that we've seen a good bit over the last couple years now. He took his official visit. And there was one more, the defensive back, Charles Bell.
Was Tate? Was Tate?
Tate was there too. Yes, Tate Ratledge was on his official visit. So really about the offensive line. And those guys kind of bonding with Matt Luke. They went throwing axes. They did one of those competitions. They all had a good time together. They did some cooking things the morning after. I believe that was Sunday morning. They all cooked breakfast together, stuff like that. So big bonding experience for those guys. But at defensive back, Charles Bell is a guy to keep an eye on. He took his official visit this past weekend. Three-star guy. Has never confirmed that Georgia actually offered him. I talked to him. There's actually an update on Dog Post right now about it, but I asked him, I said, hey, has Georgia offered you officially? And he said, sorry, I can't say that right now, or I've got something that I'm looking forward to. I forgot what the exact quote was, but I thought that was interesting. But I do think Georgia wants to take another defensive back in this class. Darren Branch, Ole Miss commit, was in town. He's got the Matt Luke connection there. But Charles Bell, I think, is a guy that Georgia needs to keep an eye on. Former Syracuse commit, but that's really it as far as official visitors that I can think of right now.
Well,
But
a lot of people that are listening to this are going to wonder about Zach Evans, and I wonder about Zach Evans too. Do you have anything to say on the Zach Evans front?
I don't think he's going to end up at Georgia. That's my gut feeling right now. Another guy who was in Athens this past weekend was Dejan Edwards, the
Yeah,
four-star running back from Colquitt County.
that's
He was on
definitely
official visit.
that's
So
that's definitely one to watch for sure.
definitely. So if Georgia plans to take a second back in this class, and I think they've gone back and forth, the past like 6-7 months. Hey, do we want to take one or not? If it was the right guys, they would. And for a while, it was Zach Evans was going to be the guy that they bring in with Kendall Milton. I don't think that's going to happen, but nobody really knows. I don't think
Right.
anyone knows. But right now, I think the safe bet is Dejan Edwards if he can put it together off the football field, if that makes sense. But if he's able and he has a place to sign and be a member of this class, I think Dejan Edwards will be the second back.
Well, you're saying off the field. Look, it's as simple as grades right there and getting qualified.
Right.
So for him, that's a big thing. So the second running back position, second slot at running back is in flux. Needless to say, for Georgia, and we'll just see how it goes here. But I mean, let's talk about Broderick for a little bit. Like you said earlier, going into a final visit weekend where Auburn is the final team that he's going to see, you can't if you are anyone that knows anything about recruiting and knows about Auburn and their ability to do things through the years, you never want to doubt Auburn closing things out. So I think that's the thing to watch. in this final time right before signing period is what's going to really happen with Broderick. Is it really ever done when Auburn has the final visit, or anyone else really, but in particular Auburn, just because
They
Auburn,
close.
yeah, Auburn over time has done a good job, and Broderick, as you and I both know, he doesn't want to play that far away from home. Auburn's not exactly that. I mean, Auburn is almost as close to him as Georgia is. For Broderick, he would have the capability of playing at Auburn pretty early. I think he would have the same capability at Georgia right now, frankly, but he could play early at both places. And in Auburn's defense, who is more likely to where are you more likely to play early at a place that has as many offensive linemen as Georgia does, or at Auburn, which I think is replacing a fair amount of guys. Georgia's replacing a fair amount of guys too, but it's in both of these cases. Broderick, a guy as good as he is, has the capability to play early, and so that's why he's got something to think about.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest factors that he's thinking about going into this decision is getting on the field. These kids want to do that, and he's talented enough to do that. I think if he continues to put on more muscle, in his upper body, I think he'll be more ready to play, but he's a guy who wants to step in, and he'll get a shot, whether it is Georgia or Auburn. But like you said, I think there's a pretty good chance he could play early at both schools, but I definitely think that's something that he is on the forefront of his mind when it comes down to him making a final decision. I think it's going to be close. I think that might be the recruitment we pay attention to the most leading up to signing day. So it'll be back and forth. I do think that his official to Georgia went really well. He tweeted afterwards, still committed. So he's very quiet about his recruitment.
Yeah.
But again, Auburn last weekend, it's going to come down to that visit. But right now, I think Georgia has a good spot to hold on to him, and they should with Matt Luke coming in and him building that relationship. I don't know if Auburn has an offensive line coach. That guy resigned, so I don't even think they have someone there. So it would be interesting, to say the least, if Auburn were able to pull this away. He's been committed to Georgia for like a year and a half now.
Yeah, so I'm not killing the. I love Broderick. I mean, I think he's got personality. He's a very good player. He's smart.
No, he's a good guy.
Yeah, but and I just mean this is the first time Broderick's ever gone through recruiting. I've seen this for 20 years. I'm still committed doesn't mean anything. It just is something. It's just something that kids say, and God bless him, he probably means it. But you just got to get through this last time if you're Georgia.
There's still a week and a half left, or I guess 1 week.
Or a week, and for Broderick, Broderick's a big deal. So, getting him signing on campus at Georgia would be a big deal. My suspicion is he probably still winds up at Georgia, but I don't think it's
It wouldn't be the most shocking thing if he went to Auburn. And we've seen it before, and it could very well happen again.
We owe our audience. Dog Post is about being a smarter Georgia fan. Okay. And we're not going to sort of sugarcoat it with folks. I mean, this is going to be something Georgia's going to have to survive here at the end. They should probably still win him, but we're not going to act like it's a certainty.
It's in the bag.
Yeah, because it's not a certainty. So
I think Van Pran is more of a certainty, but again, I thought he might cancel that Florida visit. He's still going to take it, so you can't really rule Florida out there. But I do feel better about Georgia's chances of holding on to Van Pran from New Orleans than Broderick Jones from Lithonia. But that's recruiting.
Yeah, this is how it goes, and what can you really say? But Broderick, I think, will play pretty quick next year at Georgia, and maybe Van Pran would as well. That's a good question. I want to mention right now. I'm sometimes a little bit scatterbrained here, but I'm watching the 2006 Peach Bowl game against Virginia Tech, and just seeing this comeback here. It's midway through the fourth quarter right now, and Georgia's just tied it up. And I was watching the 1992 Carolina game and the 1994 Clemson game, and it's amazing how far college football has come. Eric Zier was an exceptional quarterback in the 90s. He wouldn't have started at Georgia in the 2000s, maybe with the exception of 2015. I mean, it's amazing how far college football has come.
Well, I see it at the high school level now. These kids are getting bigger, faster, stronger each and every year. And every year there's a few of these 15, 16-year-olds who are just giants. And, they just smash my hand when I, meet them for the first time. But these defenses have gotten so
Yeah.
much more athletic and fast. And you're seeing it now at the NFL. It's tough to score points now because these defensive linemen coming in and these linebackers are so athletic for their size. So
The other thing, let me throw this in here too. The other thing that has slowed, I think the correct term, the thing that has retarded quarterbacks in, from Georgia, and that term means to slow. It's not a slur. I mean, it is, for so long, this state was just about running
running backs.
the football. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't about quarterbacks. And so the development of guys like, Deshaun comes to mind immediately, but not even necessarily Deshaun, but Zach Mettenberger, and just people like that. It wasn't there. And,
You're seeing it a lot
you could
now.
see a very serious spike in, quarterbacks from Georgia, from here on out.
We saw it starting with the 2017 class when you had Jake Fromm and Davis Mills, and even Emory Jones was
Yes.
highly recruited. And then the next year, 2018, was even better than that with Justin and Trevor and Jaron Williams, who's not at Miami now. That didn't go as well as I thought it would, but I thought he was a really good quarterback. And you had a few guys, but I mean, we're seeing it with the young kids now. Brock Vandegrift in 21, the 22 class, Gunnar Stockton, MJ Morris. These are going to be really, really good players. So we've seen a spike in quarterbacks, and even quarterbacks going out of state into other programs. And it doesn't seem like there's as many running backs. There's still a few, and you can come to Georgia and get a really good running back. But it's not like Georgia is just getting the best running back in the state each and every year. They're going all across the country. But there's a lot of really good quarterback play. These kids are developed early on, all through middle school. Everyone's got their trainer they work with in the off season and try to play baseball at the same time. So I think it's a trend that we're going to continue to see, at least in the state of Georgia, for a long time.
And it was slow to develop. I mean, frankly, Georgia as a state just, it churned out linebackers and running backs. I wonder how many of those linebackers could have been quarterbacks, I guess. No telling. But there's been no shortage of Hines Wards and Larry Browns and, George Lombards and those kind of guys who've come out of this state. And that was in the 90s. And guys like Mike Bobo were playing quarterback. Guys who were good quarterbacks. I mean, Mike was a good quarterback. Mike wouldn't have ever started in the 2000s. He was 2015 was handled incorrectly, so I can't tell you who would have started. But I saw Grayson Lambert this weekend in Athens. Someone as that's the best way to put Grayson. Least physically gifted as Grayson starting at quarterback at Georgia. That's just never going to happen again with the kids that this state is producing at quarterback, and it's not going to be ignored anymore. I'm not sure this is going to be sacrilegious, and I know people are going to scream and yell, but I'm not sure someone as least talented as if you want to put it that least talented, someone as gifted as Jake Fromm. I think Jake Fromm is going to be the least gifted quarterback we've seen at Georgia over the next 10 years.
Now, I think that's a fair statement.
It sounds like an insult.
I
don't really mean it that way.
Georgia's going to be piling 5-star quarterbacks for the foreseeable future. If you saw Mike Bobo at one of these camps or right now, would you rank him a 3-star, a 4-star?
No, look, I value Mike Bobo's the relationship that I've had with Mike over 25 years. We're not best friends, but when I speak with him, it's a very frank conversation, I remember him being excited about Zach Mettenberger. I remember him being
Bryce.
Bryce. Oh no, I mean I don't just mean Zach. I mean he loved Deshaun Watson. He loved Zach Mettenberger. He loved Bryce Ramsey. He loved. I mean there were kids that he loved along the way. But the most. I mean Mike Bobo is as frank a talker as it gets. Maybe not always with the media, but just if you talk with him generally. And I'm seeing Mike here on the TV with the Peach Bowl, but Mike would say to you, "Hey, I would have never played at Georgia." And Kirby would say the same thing. I would never play at
Will
Georgia
probably
now.
too.
Well, Will Muschamp. I mean, Will Muschamp was in the right place at the right time a lot on these games. I mean, you watched him play against Clemson in 1994, but Trey Battle wouldn't get on the field right now. I mean, I don't think so. I mean, Dominic Sanders was a guy that I don't think would ever be recruited by Kirby, but he played out there and was a meaningful member, a playmaker. But the type of kid that is at Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama now, bro, I'm just watching, I just see guys out here now, and I'm just reminded of players that played for Georgia and even the specialists in the 90s. You were really pushing it with some of the specialists. The punter for South Carolina in 1992, the hang time on the punt was maybe 3 seconds, and you got Hassan Graham and Andre Hastings back there just ready to bust one. So there were, I mean, Georgia, the caliber of athlete from when I was growing up and playing, we would never see a Division I field now. I mean, Larry Brown would, and so would George Lombard, Larry, Hines Ward, guys
Well, I
like
think the
that.
defensive linemen, all those great defensive linemen
Well,
in the 90s, especially in the SEC, they probably could. But other
you
than
had
that, I think you're
Stroud,
right.
you had
Yeah.
Travis Stroud, Marcus Stroud, guys like that. But there's something has changed. I mean, you meet guys now who are going, Max Johnson or Brock Vandergriff or guys like that. The level of skill in basketball, in tennis, in football, we have accelerated it so much now that I'm just not sure athletics will ever be the same as it was. You're seeing football is becoming a scarier sport because it's such a more violent game because guys can really run and hit now. Basketball, you're seeing, it used to be, Matt, when I was growing up, I mean, God bless Kobe Bryant and his baby girl. That was horrible. You see guys, back when Kobe and this is the only time I'll ever be in the same conversation as Kobe Bryant as a basketball player, was that we played around the same time in high school. It was who could jump the highest. Now it's who can slow down and make the play around the rim. I mean, guys like James Harden or people like that. I mean, Kobe was about being mentally tough as much as anything. And you see players now. I mean, the Euro step has changed the game. What has changed the game in football? Well, quarterbacks are different now. Quarterbacks are scarier now than ever before. And Jake Fromm, as good as he was at Georgia, he didn't have the running ability that obviously Justin, but even Trevor. I mean, Trevor was probably the best running quarterback in college football this year that I can remember. Off the top of my head.
Quarterbacks have changed, like you said, and the style of play has changed, and that you've got coordinators and coaches, giving these kids the best option to use their talents and strengths to change the game. So
Trevor was certainly not the best running quarterback in college football, but he made the most meaningful 80-yard dash in the season.
Well, he gets you 8 yards on 3rd and 7.
Stuff. That run against Ohio State changed the game.
That was impressive. Yeah,
you just
watching that from the Sugar Bowl. That was great.
Yeah, and also too, I mean, Matthew was extremely advanced, and when he was coming out of high school in Dallas, but I think he was an extreme exception, Matthew, and I think that's why you see he's been a franchise player forever for the Lions. and you just don't see a lot of guys like that, and you don't know. Everything's changed. It's accelerated so fast, and you're seeing guys like Broderick. I mean, Broderick Jones is a good example, man. Offensive linemen used to be heavy guys. You're not seeing a lot of heavy with Broderick.
No, Amarius Mims is the same way, man. That that dude puts on. I mean, he's like 290, 295. He looks like he's 250. Yeah.
All right.
He's a special player.
Go to Dog Post, become a smarter fan, and we will see y'all tomorrow on Riding Home.